Okay, people, here's a little truth that you're not going to get from the mainstream. A lot of these YouTube channels are getting taken down one by one. There truly is an information book burning happening right now. I've seen Wikipedia change literally within minutes. Have you also noticed that when you go to the search engine and you look up something today, that sometimes you come up with a blank page saying, oh, we can't find anything like that. Share this video and go to the website of this video and share their video. Share. Make a video yourself, copy these YouTube channels and put it out there. That way the information doesn't get lost. Share, people. Be bold. Okay, like always, I'm going to have the link below so that you can go and watch the full film. This is a 2-hour film, really amazing. They've got some other videos on their YouTube channel that is a must-see. Go check them out.
Scientism and NASA.
I find it very hard to believe that after having very limited technology in the 60s, traversing our way to the moon through various obstacles that still are not able to adequately be explained, that we no longer have the technology to do so. That being said, it's made me wonder if we ever had the technology to do so. When you listen to the lectures of the professionals at NASA, they seem to indicate that we don't traverse anything more than 400 miles.
Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually.
Well, how far was the moon? 240-something thousand miles? You know, well, we can't go further than that anymore. It doesn't make sense.
As a kid, I saw Star Wars when I was 7 years old. And I don't know too many kids that didn't freak out, especially in my generation. When they saw that movie, man, they either wanted to get in space or they wanted to be an actor or whatever. But we all played Star Wars. We all grew up on Star Trek. We loved space. And NASA was the vehicle to take us there. NASA's the precursor to Starfleet, from that kind of mindset that we grew up with. Star Trek is meant to be like, this is Earth's future a few hundred years from now. So the writers of Star Trek, basically say, this is where we are today, let's extrapolate that into the future, and then you got the fiction there. But, I mean, you can see how Star Trek has itself impacted NASA. You can see how science fiction in general has impacted NASA. Arthur C. Clarke is the one that came up with satellites. Actually, you could argue Leonardo da Vinci or some of these other guys. You can go even back to Newton back in that time frame, coming up with ideas of shooting a cannonball. If you shoot it the right trajectory or whatever, it would just continually fall around the globe. That kind of thing. So NASA's the vehicle to take us to space. I was 1 month old, sitting on my mother's lap. I was born June 26, 1969. July 20th, barely a month later, I'm watching blurry images on a black and white TV that my dad actually took pictures of. I have the scrapbook at home of the photos from the TV of man allegedly walking on the moon.
Good day from ABC Space Headquarters in New York. It is July 20th, 1969, and man is about to land on the moon.
But we never really questioned it. At least I didn't. I don't know anybody of the people that I knew that ever really, should we really trust NASA? But then eventually I decided to finally look into it for myself. And there are lots of problems with the moon landing. And for one thing, Orion is the new project that replaced the space shuttles. Orion is supposed to be, this is the new big, the pinnacle of our technology. And they're like, well, we can't go anywhere yet till we figure out how to get through the Van Allen radiation belts. And you're kind of like, wait a minute. Why don't you just do the same thing in the 60s and 70s? When you went through that thing, several times there and back in a tin can and jumpsuits. And by the way, if those jumpsuits are so great, why don't you go clean up Fukushima? Or any place else where we've got radiation problems. Well, they can't do it because that stuff's not what we were told it is. And so when you have NASA themselves telling you, hey, we can't get through the radiation, we got a problem with radiation.
As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation.
Telemetry, we lost all that information, everything, all the technology that we were able to supposedly use to get to the moon, we don't have it anymore.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
I haven't seen anything that indicates the telemetry data is even in existence, and as I said, even if we had it, we don't have the machines to play it back.
We've been unable to track it down. I mean, we don't know where this telemetry data ended up, and we don't know what path it may have taken. So, unfortunately, I'm afraid I can't really give you much of a clue as to where this data ended up and whether it still exists or not.
There's no reason for me to believe them anymore, you know, and so I don't. They're always putting out something, but it's always CGI. You know, show me a picture of a satellite, a photograph of a satellite in orbit. You know, but the sad part is that even if they did that, it'd be hard to tell if nowadays with technology that we have in 3D graphics and things like that. It's going to be hard to tell. We're at that point now. But throughout the 70s, or 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, looking back now, it's easy to tell what is just ridiculous attempts at CGI. There's no reason to believe NASA for anything, you know, and there's every reason to question them about everything.
What is our next destination for America in space?
The next destination for America in space, and I'm not being trite when I answer this, is the International Space Station. We've got to get there 4 more times this year. The long-term destination, after we successfully close out the space shuttle program, the ultimate destination is Mars. And there are intermediate points that we're going to have to get to before we are capable of going to Mars. If you gave me all the money in the federal budget today, I could not get a human to Mars. I could not morally put a human in a spacecraft and launch them on an 8-month mission to Mars because I do not understand the radiation.
All right, so what is our next destination in space?
The next ultimate destination is
No,
Mars.
the next one.
Congressman, the next destination, as I said before, is the International Space Station. And
All
we've
right,
got
let's
to do that
not
one
be
more time.
trite then. What is the one after that?
It's Mars.
So there's nothing in between as far as you're concerned.
But there are intermediate stops
What are
on the way
they?
there.
What's the next one?
The moon is a destination. Lagrange points are destinations.
Which one is next?
You mean where do we go immediately next? Is that the question?
That's what next
Incrementally?
means.
I think that questioning scientism and looking into what we perceive as possible lies is important, because the day that we're no longer able to ask questions is the day that George Orwell's 1984 is no longer fiction.
Adam, tell us about the landing.
All right, Greg. I can't tell you too much about it. It looked good, in short. Good and clean. And it looks, at least by my eyeball, that we landed in a nice, flat spot. Beautiful. Really beautiful.
Shani Jardin from BoingBoing.net, and I'm a stand-in for Miles O'Brien with PBS NewsHour tonight.
You look more attractive than Miles.
I won't tell him that, Adam.
Okay.
I think he heard it.
I have to ask you, what kind of file type, can you tell us about the image file type and compression that was used to send this very important couple of thumbnails back from Mars?
Yes, unfortunately, I absolutely cannot. If Justin Mackey is in the room, or there's a couple other people on the team who'd be able to whip that out quickly, but I couldn't tell you. Sorry.
Really? You know, and then when they start sending you pictures of Pluto that happen to look like Pluto, the Disney character, you're like, somebody's just laughing at us at this point. And they're beaming us back photos from how many millions of miles away? And yet I have trouble keeping a Wi-Fi signal in the hotel? How are you getting that Wi-Fi signal of pictures emailed to us from freaking Pluto, not just through that massive distance, but also through the Van Allen radiation belt? And presumably there's more radiation beyond the belt because that belt's supposedly there to protect us from the other stuff.
Go to the root. Anytime somebody says, hey, what about this? Well, how did it start? How did NASA start? Find out who started NASA. Who were the official members of NASA at the beginning? Why did they get it going?
It seems obvious to me that even the names of all of their programs, Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, the names of their space shuttles, Endeavour and Columbia, that they all have occultic meaning to them, and that they all show the pantheon of the gods and goddesses as it was worshipped by the secret societies going back thousands of years. And again, when you look at even the Jesuit priests that put forth the premise of the Big Bang and Copernican and others, they were associated with the Jesuit, the Freemasonic conspiracy. And so in my opinion, it absolutely has roots, that NASA has occultic roots with even Jack Parsons, JPL, Aleister Crowley, L. Ron Hubbard. They all have connections to occultism and to these pagan theologies. And yeah, looking into and examining it, it's undeniable that the roots of NASA are most certainly contained within and fabricated from such conspiracy.
Big Bang cosmology, in my mind,
it's undeniable that the roots of NASA are most certainly contained within and fabricated from such conspiracy.
Big Bang cosmology, in my mind, is what made it possible. It's what made evolution even remotely plausible. And if evolution is remotely plausible because of the Big Bang, then ipso facto, it could have happened elsewhere. That's the whole idea. Is the conditions were right, that our Earth spun off into a perfect orbit at the right Goldilocks distance from our sun and the size and age of our sun, that we're in the perfect zone that life was made possible. And if that could happen here, stands to reason, the odds are, if there are all those zillions of stars out there also have planets around them, then very likely other worlds could have evolved some form of life in a similar fashion. Okay, well, now that they've realized that intelligent design is real, when they look at them in the microscopic level, this isn't possible. There's too much intricate design here to have happened by random chance. So there was an intelligence behind this, but we've already ruled out God. We don't believe in God. So it must have been an ancient scientist that made this happen. So therefore, those ancient scientists who initially created this petri dish that is Earth may come back to visit us. That's the narrative. So you have a massive increase in UFO activity. Along with that, you have a massive increase in documented cases of people claiming to be abducted by some sort of non-human entity, taking them into a laboratory environment and doing sexual experimentation on them. UFOs are obviously some kind of vehicle coming from elsewhere, so it stands to reason in that scientism paradigm, it came from another planet. Could they be of the ones that created the experiment that made us be what we are today in the first place? What I see in the future, it seems like the writing's on the wall. An event's going to happen, Independence Day style, maybe wiping us out, or maybe just showing up and saying, hey guys, we're your creators, we're back. Wow, look what you guys, kids, you've really kind of messed this place up. We're gonna have to clean it up, we'll help you out. And, maybe shows like V had it right. Where these alien entities show up, claiming to be our creators, offering mankind all kinds of benefits. Let's give you clean energy. Let's eradicate cancer and disease, and you're gonna live 500 years, easy. That's all wonderful. Oh, by the way, we have an enemy. We believe he's on his way. Now that we've helped you guys out, will you help us against him? Then you find yourself in a Revelation 19:19 scenario where the armies of the world are gathered together to make war with the one who's going to be coming on that white horse. You read Psalm 2, the nations of the world conspiring together to make war with God. This is in the prophetic biblical narrative. That's already written in there. The world is going to gather together to make war with God. In my mind, the setup has already been in place for hundreds of years, but definitely within the last several decades of our lifetime. This ancient alien narrative is being put in our face.
Scientism and the alien agenda.
Search in your heart. Do you really believe that everything that we've been exposed to over the last few years is just by coincidence? People, we need to really examine. We can't just pick and choose anymore. We can't just say we don't like our politicians. We don't like what's going on in the world, and we can see all this crime, but everybody else is telling the truth to us. There is a conspiracy, but the conspiracy is deeper than what we've all thought. It's not about aliens. It's not about government. It's not about the rich over the poor and the elite over the governments or the people. It's about the ultimate. And the only way, the ultimate battle, the battle that has to do with everything that all the books are written about. But it's our souls that is the battle. Don't think that you have to go outside of the world to aliens and fairies and all of the different things that they try to present to you as a possibility or a reality, when the reality is more extraordinary than any of the possibilities. We have a history book. Read it.